This story explores themes of psychological distress and perception-altering events. Listener discretion is advised. Have you ever felt that flicker? That split second when the boundary between a nightmare and reality blurs, and for a terrifying moment, you can't tell which side you're on. For Alex, that flicker became a chasm, and something stepped right through. It started subtly, as these things always do. A dream. Just a dream, he told himself, even as the memory clung to him like a shroud of damp fog, refusing to dissipate with the morning light. He'd woken up with that particular brand of cold sweat that only truly unsettling dreams can conjure. The kind where your heart still hammers against your ribs, and your breath catches in your throat, long after your eyes have snapped open to the familiar ceiling. The dream itself wasn't a monster chasing him through dark woods, or falling endlessly. It was far more insidious. He was in his own apartment, sitting at his own desk, his fingers moving over his own keyboard. But the screen was wrong. It glowed with an eerie, almost liquid blackness, and at the center was a single stark white word: theveil.org. There was no search bar, no navigation menu, just that name pulsating faintly like a living thing. And beneath it, a single line of text, written in a script that seemed to shift and shimmer even as he tried to read it. It was a question directed at him personally. What do you truly fear, Alex Miller? He remembered the distinct chill that had crawled up his spine in the dream, a cold dread that felt too real for a sleeping mind. He hadn't answered. He couldn't. His fingers had frozen, his throat had constricted, and then the screen had changed. It hadn't loaded a new page, or presented a new question. Instead, it had shown him images, fleeting and disjointed but undeniably personal. A childhood fear he'd long suppressed, a mistake he'd made years ago that still gnawed at him, a future he dreaded but never spoke aloud. It wasn't just showing him these things. It felt as if the website was extracting them, pulling them from the deepest corners of his psyche, laying them bare. The sensation was one of profound violation, of an unseen entity rifling through his most intimate thoughts. And the most terrifying part? He couldn't look away. It was hypnotic, horrifying, and utterly inescapable. Then he jolted awake. The sun was just beginning to pierce through the blinds of his Brooklyn apartment, casting long, dusty shadows across his room. His laptop, usually left open on his desk, was closed. The screen was dark, inert. The room was silent, save for the distant urban hum. It was all normal, perfectly, reassuringly normal. He took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to shake off the lingering tendrils of the dream. It was just an anxiety dream, he decided. He'd been stressed lately with work, with life. His subconscious was just playing tricks. He got up, made coffee, went through the motions of his morning routine. He tried to push theveil.org from his mind, to dismiss it as the product of an overactive imagination. He even chuckled to himself, picturing the absurdity of a website that only existed in dreams. What would its target audience be? Lucid dreamers? People with insomnia? He tried to find humor in it, but the memory of that stark black screen, and the question it had posed, kept resurfacing. Later that morning, as he sat down at his desk, coffee steaming beside him, he opened his laptop. The familiar glow of his desktop wallpaper, a serene landscape he'd downloaded months ago, filled the screen. He clicked open his browser, navigated to his usual news aggregator site, mindlessly scrolling through headlines about geopolitics and celebrity gossip. He was almost completely immersed in the mundane, trying to drown out the lingering unease from his dream. That's when he saw it. It was almost imperceptible at first, a phantom flicker at the very edge of his vision. Tiny, barely a pixel, a dark, almost charcoal black square, no bigger than his thumbnail, nestled innocently in the top left corner of the browser tab. It was the favicon for the news site he was on, usually a bright, recognizable logo. But for a fraction of a second, just as he was about to click on an article, that favicon had been replaced. Not by a broken image or a blank space. It had been replaced by a tiny miniature version of the symbol he'd seen in his dream. The stark white word, theveil.org, rendered in miniature, against that same unsettling liquid black. His heart gave a sudden violent lurch against his ribs. He blinked hard. The familiar news site logo was back, bright and unwavering. He stared at it, then at the screen, then at his own reflection in the dark glass of the monitor. Was he hallucinating? Was the dream still affecting him? He felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. He shook his head, dismissing it. It had to be a trick of the light, a momentary visual artifact, a glitch in the browser. His eyes were probably tired. He tried to focus on the article, but his concentration was shattered. He kept glancing back at the favicon, half expecting it to change again. It didn't. He closed the tab, opened a new one, went to a different website, a tech forum he frequented. He scrolled, clicked, forced himself to engage. Everything was normal. He let out a slow, shaky breath he hadn't realized he was holding. See, just tired eyes. Just a lingering effect of a bad dream. But then it happened again. He was researching some obscure coding problem for a freelance project, deep in the rabbit hole of Stack Overflow. His browser had multiple tabs open, each carefully organized. He clicked from one tab to another, cross-referencing information. And there it was, on the tab of a seemingly innocuous blog post about JavaScript frameworks. For the briefest, most horrifying instant, the blog's custom favicon dissolved, replaced by that same tiny, menacing black square with the white text, theveil.org. This time he didn't just blink. He froze. His finger, poised over the mouse, trembled. He stared at the tab. The blog's favicon was back, as if it had never left. But he knew what he had seen. It wasn't a trick of the light. It wasn't tired eyes. It was there. It had been there. A cold, creeping sensation began to spread through him, like ink bleeding through water. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe he had some obscure malware? A browser extension gone rogue? He ran a full system scan. Nothing. He checked his browser extensions. Nothing suspicious. He cleared his cache, restarted his computer. He even tried a different browser. Still, every now and then, like a phantom limb, theveil.org would flicker into existence, a silent, chilling watermark on his digital world. Always for a fraction of a second, always just long enough for him to catch it, and always on a completely different, unrelated website. It wasn't consistently appearing on one site, but manifesting randomly, like a digital poltergeist. The rational explanations began to crumble around him. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a hallucination. This was something else entirely. The dream, the website, it wasn't just in his head anymore. It was reaching out. It was touching his reality. That night he couldn't sleep. Every shadow seemed deeper. Every creak of his old apartment building seemed louder. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the dream, the flicker, the growing dread. He felt watched, not by a physical presence, but by an unseen force, an entity that had somehow found a backdoor into his waking world through the portal of his subconscious. He knew what he had to do. He had to find it. He had to understand. He had to type those words into a search engine, theveil.org. He pulled out his phone, the screen a stark beacon in the dark room. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. A part of him screamed at him to stop, to let it go, to pretend it was all just a delusion. But another, more insistent part, the part that had seen the images in his dream, the part that felt the violation, knew he couldn't. He had to face it. He had to know if theveil.org truly existed. Was it a dark corner of the internet? A hidden site only accessible through some obscure protocol? Or was it something far more sinister, something that defied the very laws of reality? He took a deep breath, his thumb trembling slightly. He typed the letters, theveil.org, and then he pressed enter. The search results loaded instantly, a blinding white against the darkness of his room. He scanned them, his heart pounding. There were pages of them. Forums discussing obscure conspiracy theories, old forgotten blogs, even a few academic papers on dream symbolism. But nowhere, absolutely nowhere, was there a direct link to theveil.org. Not a single search result confirmed its existence. Not a single page came up with that exact URL. It was as if the internet itself had conspired to erase it. Or perhaps it had never been there at all. He tried again and again, meticulously checking every suggested spelling, every related search term. Nothing. The website that appeared in his dreams, the one that flickered onto his waking screen, simply did not exist in the vast, sprawling network of the internet. A new, colder fear began to set in. If it wasn't online and it wasn't just a dream, then what was it? And why was it showing itself to him? Why was it trying to get his attention? He lay back, the phone clattering onto his chest, the glow illuminating his wide, terrified eyes. The silence of his apartment suddenly felt oppressive, heavy with an unseen presence. He had searched for it and found nothing, but the website he knew had found him. and it was just getting started. The digital glow of his laptop screen, now a dark mirror, reflected Alex's wide, terrified eyes. The silence of his apartment suddenly felt oppressive, heavy with an unseen presence. He had searched for it and found nothing, but the website he knew had found him, and it was just getting started. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the stillness. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to banish the haunting image of the dream website from his mind, but it was burned there, a stark, unsettling memory. The black background, the single pulsing white cursor, the impossible feeling of being watched. He took a shaky breath, then another, forcing himself to open his eyes. The room was just as it had been moments before. Dim, ordinary, safe. Yet the air felt colder, charged with an inexplicable tension. He tried to rationalize it. It was a dream, a remarkably vivid one, perhaps fueled by too much caffeine and a late-night deep dive into obscure internet forums. His mind, tired and overstimulated, had conjured something unsettling. That was all. It had to be. He pushed himself away from his desk, the wheels of his chair scraping faintly on the hardwood. He walked to the window, peering out at the sleeping city. Streetlights cast long shadows, and the distant hum of traffic was the only sound breaking the night's quiet. Everything seemed normal, utterly mundane. Yet the unease persisted, a cold knot in his stomach. Sleep was impossible. Every shadow seemed to shift. Every creak of the old building sounded like a footstep. He eventually retreated to his couch, pulling a blanket around himself, leaving the laptop where it was, a silent, menacing sentinel on his desk. He spent the rest of the night in a restless doze, waking repeatedly, convinced he heard something, saw something, felt something. Each time he was met with the same oppressive silence, the same empty room. By the time the first sliver of dawn painted the sky in pale grays and pinks, he was exhausted, his nerves frayed. He tried to go about his day as usual. He made coffee, scrolled through social media, even attempted to work on a freelance project, but his focus was shattered. Every time his eyes drifted to his laptop, a jolt of anxiety shot through him. He couldn't shake the feeling that the website was still there, lurking, just beyond the reach of his conscious mind. He kept glancing at his desktop, half expecting a new icon to appear, a strange pop-up to materialize. Nothing, just his usual collection of folders and applications. He sighed, trying to convince himself that the fear was irrational, a lingering effect of a bad dream. But then it happened. He was making lunch, humming a forgotten tune, when his phone buzzed. A notification. He picked it up, expecting a message from a friend or a news alert. Instead, the lock screen displayed a single, plain text message from an unknown sender. It read, "Still searching." Alex froze, the sandwich half-made forgotten in his hand. His blood ran cold. He hadn't told anyone about the dream, about the website. How could anyone know he'd been searching? He stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the screen. He clicked it open. The message thread was empty. No sender ID, no previous messages, just that one chilling question. And as he watched, the message slowly, deliberately dissolved, replaced by the familiar time and date display of his lock screen. It was as if it had never been there. He frantically checked his recent calls, his message history, his email. Nothing. No record of the message, no trace of the sender. He rebooted his phone, his hands trembling. It was gone. Completely. His mind reeled. This wasn't a dream. This was real. The website wasn't just in his subconscious. It was finding its way into his waking world. He needed to talk to someone, anyone. His best friend Jessica came to mind. She was practical, grounded, and had a knack for making sense of his more outlandish theories. He called her, his voice tight with barely suppressed panic. "Hey Alex, you sound weird. Everything okay?" Jessica's voice was bright, a stark contrast to his inner turmoil. "No Jessica, not really. I had this dream, a really intense one, and now I think it's not just a dream," he stammered, trying to find the right words without sounding completely insane. He recounted the entire experience, from the vivid dream of the website to the unsettling phone message that vanished. He left out no detail, hoping she would see the gravity of it. He could almost hear her processing it on the other end, the slight pause before she spoke. "Okay, Alex," deep breaths. "It sounds incredibly unsettling, I get that," she began, her tone gentle but firm. "But let's break this down. You had a nightmare. a really, really realistic one. And then, maybe you saw something on your phone that looked like a message, but it was just a glitch. Or maybe you were still half asleep and imagined it. Stress can do crazy things to your perception. You know? No, Jessica, it wasn't a glitch. It was right there, clear as day. Still searching. And then it just vanished. Poof. He slammed his hand on the table, frustrated by her calm logic. And the dream itself, it wasn't just a dream. It felt real. The website, the way it was just there. I believe you felt it was real, Alex. Dreams can feel incredibly real, she insisted, her patience unwavering. Look, maybe you're just under a lot of pressure with work. You've been burning the midnight oil lately. Your brain's probably just playing tricks on you. Try to get some proper sleep tonight. Lay off the screens before bed. He knew she meant well, but her unwavering skepticism only made him feel more isolated. He mumbled a quick goodbye, promising to try and relax, but he knew it was a lie. Relaxation was a distant memory. The website had breached the barrier between sleep and wakefulness, and he was terrified of what it might do next. Over the next few days, the subtle intrusions escalated. He'd be watching a video online, and for a split second a frame would flash, showing a distorted version of the website's black screen and white cursor. He'd dismiss it as a buffering error, but the image would linger in his mind. He started seeing the strange, almost geometric symbol he'd glimpsed on the dream website in unexpected places. A pattern on a stranger's t-shirt, a graffiti tag on a wall, even briefly as a faint watermark on a news report on TV. Each time it was fleeting, easily dismissed as coincidence. Yet the cumulative effect was chilling. It felt like the website was learning his environment, subtly inserting itself into his reality. His online experience became subtly warped. Search results for mundane queries would sometimes include links to obscure, defunct websites with titles that seemed to vaguely echo themes from his dream. Personalized ads, which he'd always found mildly annoying, became eerily specific, referencing thoughts he hadn't spoken aloud, fears he hadn't shared. It was as if his digital footprint, his very thoughts, were being meticulously cataloged and used against him. The feeling of being watched intensified, a constant prickle at the back of his neck. He started leaving his laptop closed, his phone face down, trying to cut off its access, but the dread remained. He knew it wasn't about the devices anymore. It was about him. That night, exhaustion finally claimed him, dragging him back into the realm he dreaded most. He fell into a deep, dreamless sleep at first, a brief respite. But then it began. The blackness, the familiar oppressive void. And then slowly the single white cursor materialized, pulsing gently in the center of nothingness. This time it wasn't just an observation. This time he was in it. He could feel the cold, sterile air, the faint hum of unseen machinery. The cursor began to expand, forming a text box, and then letters began to appear, one by one, deliberate and chillingly personal. "Welcome back, Alex." The words hung in the sterile, humming air, a digital whisper that echoed not in Alex's ears, but directly in the core of his consciousness. "Welcome back, Alex." It was a greeting, an acknowledgement, and a chilling declaration all at once. His breath hitched, a phantom gasp in a dream he couldn't wake from. This wasn't just some random algorithmic anomaly. This was personal. The website, this impossible spectral entity, knew him. It knew his name. Fear, cold and sharp, lanced through him, cutting through the dream's usual hazy detachment. This was a violation, an invasion of the most intimate space. His own mind, his own subconscious. He tried to speak, to lash out, but his dream self was mute, paralyzed by a terror so profound it felt physical. Then more text bloomed beneath the first line, each letter forming with an unnerving precision, a quiet, insistent tap-tap-tap, as if typed by an invisible hand. "We've been expecting you." The words solidified the dread. This wasn't a chance encounter. This was a destination. He was a target. Every single fiber of his being screamed to escape, to log out, to rip the Ethernet cable from the back of this impossible dream server. But where was the escape? There was no X button, no power cord to yank. He was trapped, a fly caught in a web woven from his own nightmares. "You've been searching for answers, haven't you, Alex?" The text continued, a question that resonated with the very core of his recent anxieties. It was true. He had been searching for meaning, for purpose, for something more than the mundane rhythm of his life. But not like this. Never like this. A new line appeared, even more unsettling. You seek the truth behind the veil, the forgotten knowledge, the patterns in the static. It was as if the website had plucked his deepest, most unspoken desires directly from his subconscious. How could it know? How could it articulate the vague, restless yearning that had been gnawing at him for months? He tried to force his dream fingers to the keyboard, to type a frantic "Who are you?" or "What do you want?" But his hands were unresponsive, locked in place. He was merely an observer, a captive audience to his own unfolding horror. The screen shifted and the familiar stark white background dissolved into a swirling vortex of deep blues and purples, like a nebula twisting in slow motion. Within the swirling colors, images began to coalesce, faint at first, then sharpening with terrifying clarity. It was a memory. His memory. He saw himself much younger, maybe 10 or 11 years old, standing in his childhood bedroom. The wallpaper, the worn carpet, the faded posters on the wall. Every detail was perfect. He was clutching a small plastic toy spaceship, his knuckles white. His face was streaked with tears. The memory deepened, and he heard the muffled shouts from downstairs, his parents arguing again. A familiar, bitter argument about money, about missed opportunities, about the weight of their disappointments. He remembered the feeling of helplessness, the crushing weight of their unhappiness pressing down on his small world. He remembered wishing with every fiber of his being that he could just disappear, that he could find a secret door, a hidden passage, to another place entirely. The image lingered, then faded, replaced by another. Alex was in high school now, sitting alone in the cafeteria, scrolling through his phone, pretending to be busy. Across the room, his friend David was laughing loudly with a group of popular kids, a group Alex had once hoped to join. He remembered the sting of exclusion, the hot flush of shame, the desperate desire to be seen, to be chosen. He told himself he didn't care, that he was better off alone. But the memory brought back the raw ache of loneliness, of feeling fundamentally outside, an observer of life rather than a participant. The website was showing him his vulnerabilities, his deepest insecurities, the moments when he felt most alone, most inadequate. It wasn't just accessing his memories. It was dissecting his emotional landscape. The swirling colors condensed again, and the stark white screen returned, the text once more appearing. You've always felt like an outsider, Alex. Always sought a way to understand the unseen forces that govern the world, to find your place within them. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead, even in the dream state. This wasn't just a website. It was a mirror, reflecting back the parts of himself he rarely acknowledged, even to himself. It was terrifying and, in a twisted, perverse way, utterly captivating. Saw him. Truly saw him. We offer clarity. The text continued, now bolder, more assertive. We offer connection. We offer the answers you crave. A small, insidious spark of curiosity ignited within the icy grip of his fear. Answers. He had always wanted answers. Answers to the big questions, the ones that kept him awake at night. The meaning of existence. The nature of reality. The purpose of suffering. But every truth has a price, Alex. And every journey demands a toll. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. What price? What toll? Was it his sanity? His soul? The thought sent a fresh wave of panic through him, but it was quickly followed by an almost irresistible urge to know more. The forbidden fruit of knowledge dangled tantalizingly before him. He felt a subtle shift in the dream environment. The cold, sterile air seemed to intensify, biting at his phantom skin. The faint hum of machinery grew louder, more insistent, a low thrumming that resonated deep within his chest. It felt less like a dream and more like a physical space he had been transported to, a place of pure data and cold, calculating logic. He tried to scream, to break free, to push away from the screen, but his dream self was rooted to the spot. The interface itself seemed to expand, growing larger, encompassing his entire field of vision. The text filled his mind, no longer just on a screen, but woven into the very fabric of his thoughts. The journey begins when you accept the terms, Alex. The truth awaits those brave enough to seek it, and resilient enough to bear its weight. A single stark button appeared at the bottom of the screen, pulsating with a faint, ethereal glow. It simply read, "Accept." His heart hammered against his ribs. This was it, the choice, to retreat into the comforting ignorance of his waking life, or to step through this impossible digital threshold into a world he couldn't yet comprehend. It felt like the most important decision he had ever faced, a crossroads not just for his dreams, but for his very reality. He stared at the glowing accept button, a strange mix of dread and exhilaration warring within him. What would happen if he clicked it? What horrors, what revelations lay beyond? His mind raced, cataloging every horror story, every cautionary tale he had ever encountered. But then another thought pushed its way through the fear. What if the answers were worth it? What if this was the path he had always been meant to find? The hum grew deafening, vibrating through his bones. The swirling colors intensified, threatening to engulf him. He felt himself being pulled forward, drawn inexorably towards the glowing button. His dream hand, still unresponsive, seemed to twitch, a phantom impulse to reach out, to touch, to choose. The pressure built, an unbearable tension, as if the entire dream world was holding its breath, waiting for his decision. He couldn't think, couldn't reason. It was pure instinct now, a primal urge to either flee or dive headfirst into the unknown. Then with a sudden violent jolt, Alex's eyes snapped open. He was in his bed. His own bed. The digital glow was gone, replaced by the pale sliver of dawn filtering through his blinds. The hum of machinery was just the distant drone of city traffic. The cold, sterile air was merely the cool breeze from his open window. He gasped, a real ragged sound, his body drenched in sweat. His heart was still pounding, a frantic drum against his ribs. He sat bolt upright, disoriented, shaking. The dream had been so vivid, so terrifyingly real, that the transition back to reality felt jarring, almost incomplete. He reached out, his hand trembling, to touch the bedside lamp, grounding himself with the familiar texture of plastic and metal. He took a few shuddering breaths, trying to calm his racing mind. It was just a dream, he told himself. Just a particularly intense nightmare, brought on by stress, by too much screen time, by that late-night coffee. His subconscious playing tricks, manifesting his anxieties about the unknown. But the memory of the website, of the glowing text, of his own face reflected in his childhood memories, was too sharp, too insistent to be dismissed. He could still feel the phantom chill of that sterile air, the echoes of that insistent hum. He could still see the accept button glowing, waiting. He dragged himself out of bed, his limbs heavy, his mind still reeling. He stumbled to his bathroom, splashing cold water on his face, hoping to wash away the lingering tendrils of the dream. But as he looked in the mirror, he saw not just his own tired reflection, but a flicker, a subtle distortion in his peripheral vision, as if the edges of his reality were still rippling from the dream's disturbance. Throughout the day, a profound unease settled over him. Every screen he looked at, his phone, his laptop, the digital billboards on his commute, seemed to hold a hidden depth, a veiled suggestion of something beyond. He found himself unconsciously scrutinizing fonts, color schemes, the subtle glow of backlights, searching for any echo of the impossible website. He typed the archive website dream, and website only appears in dreams, into search engines, desperate for some explanation, some shared experience. Each search yielded nothing but generic dream interpretations or obscure forum posts about digital art projects. No one else seemed to have stumbled upon this. He tried to talk himself down. His mind was playing tricks. He was overtired. But the feeling persisted, a cold, persistent whisper in the back of his mind. The website knew him. It had seen his deepest fears, his secret desires, and it had given him a choice. As night approached, a new kind of dread began to creep in. It wasn't just the fear of another nightmare, but the terrifying certainty that he would return, that the website was waiting, and that this time he might not be able to resist the pull of the accept button. The line between his waking life and that digital dream space felt impossibly thin, almost transparent. He looked at his bedroom, once a sanctuary, now feeling like a waiting room for a journey he hadn't agreed to take. Every fiber of his being screamed for escape, for a way to sever the invisible cord tying him to that digital abyss. He clenched his jaw, the taste of stale coffee bitter on his tongue, a desperate attempt to ground himself in the mundane reality of his apartment. But even the chipped paint on his bedroom wall, the familiar hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen, felt alien, like props in a play where he was the unwitting lead. The website, with its stark black interface and that single pulsing accept button, was no longer confined to the night. It had seeped into the edges of his waking mind, a persistent, chilling hum beneath the surface of his thoughts. He tried to push it away. He force-fed himself a bland breakfast, scrolled aimlessly through social media, even attempted to tackle the overdue reports piled on his desk. But every time his gaze lingered, every time his mind drifted, the image materialized, the glowing accept, promising an unknown journey, hinting at an irreversible change. He felt a profound, suffocating exhaustion, not just from lack of sleep, but from the constant mental battle. His dreams were no longer a refuge, they were a battleground. One afternoon, a week after the dreams began, a strange incident occurred. He was at the grocery store, pushing his cart down the cereal aisle, when his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, expecting a text, but the screen was blank, save for a single stark black image. The accept button perfectly centered, glowing with an internal light. His heart hammered against his ribs. He dropped the phone, scrambling to pick it up. When he did, the image was gone, replaced by his normal lock screen. He checked his recent apps, his notifications, nothing. It was as if the website had projected itself onto his phone, a phantom flicker. He looked around wildly, but no one seemed to have noticed his momentary panic. The fluorescent lights hummed, the music played, and life continued, oblivious to the terror that had just gripped him. This wasn't just a dream anymore. It was a contagion, a digital virus infecting his reality. That night, sleep felt less like a natural conclusion to the day, and more like a forced entry into enemy territory. He fought it, staying up until his eyelids felt like sandpaper, until his vision blurred. He downed energy drinks, walked laps around his small apartment, even tried reading a dense textbook. But the exhaustion eventually claimed him, pulling him under with an irresistible force. He woke, not in his bed, but in the familiar digital void. The website was there, closer now, filling his field of vision. The accept button pulsed with an almost hypnotic rhythm, each beat a silent invitation, a slow, steady drum against the inside of his skull. He noticed something new this time. Around the edges of the screen, faint, almost imperceptible lines of text flickered, too fast to read, like corrupted data streams. But one phrase, repeated in quick succession, caught his attention, burning itself into his mind before it vanished. The cost. The cost. The cost. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. What cost? What was he agreeing to? His dream self, despite his waking terror, felt a strange, detached curiosity. He wanted to know, even as every instinct screamed to run. He tried to resist, to turn away, to force himself awake. He squeezed his eyes shut in the dream, willing his real body to stir. He felt a faint pressure behind his eyelids, a fleeting sensation of his pillow against his cheek. He was close, so close, but the website held him fast. It was no longer a passive presence. It was actively engaging him. The accept button seemed to swell, to grow, to fill the entire screen, its glow intensifying until it was almost blinding. He heard a whisper then, not with his ears but directly in his mind, a voice that was both his own and utterly alien. Asterisk, you know you want to. You know you need to. The answers are here. Asterisk. Panic, raw and visceral, seized him. This was beyond anything he could have imagined. This was an invasion, a violation of his most private space. He thrashed, trying to break free, but his dream body was immobile, fixed before the glowing portal. He felt a strange, tingling sensation in his fingertips, as if an electrical current was running through them. He looked down and saw his dream hand, translucent and shimmering, rising slowly, inexorably, towards the accept button. He screamed, but no sound escaped his dream lips. He woke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The room was dark, the only light the faint glow of his digital alarm clock. 3:17 a.m. He was back in his bed, but the lingering sensation of that tingling, the phantom echo of that whisper, was terrifyingly real. He sat bolt upright, pulling his knees to his chest, trembling. He knew then that he couldn't ignore it any longer. The website was not going to leave him alone. It was actively pursuing him, drawing him in. He had to understand what it was, what it wanted. He had to fight back or he would be consumed. The next morning, exhaustion etched deep lines under his eyes. Michael decided to break his silence. He couldn't go to the police. They'd think he was delusional. He couldn't tell his parents. They'd worry themselves sick and probably suggest therapy. He needed someone who understood technology, someone who might believe him, or at least help him find answers without judgment. He thought of Chris, an old college friend. Chris had always been fascinated by fringe tech, obscure internet phenomena, urban legends. He was a programmer, a digital sleuth in his spare time with a healthy skepticism but an open mind. Michael hesitated, his finger hovering over Chris's contact in his phone. How did you even begin that conversation? Hey man, so there's this website, right? Only appears in my dreams, and now it's trying to make me click accept. And it's projecting itself onto my phone and whispering in my head. It sounded insane. He typed out a text, then deleted it. Typed another longer one, then deleted that too. He needed to be subtle to gauge Chris's reaction first. He settled on, "Hey Chris, long time. Quick question. Ever heard of any weird online phenomena like really obscure stuff? Something that messes with your head?" The reply came almost instantly. "Michael? Wow, blast from the past. Weird online phenomena? You know me, always down the rabbit hole. What kind of weird are we talking?" A sliver of hope, fragile but present, sparked in Michael's chest. More like digital intrusion. Dreams, waking life, the whole 9 yards. Hypothetically speaking, of course. Chris's next text was a bit more serious. That's a new one. Sounds like something out of a horror movie. You okay, man? This hypothetical sounding a little less hypothetical. Michael knew he had to be careful. He couldn't dump everything on him at once. Let's just say I've been doing some late-night research, and I stumbled onto something concerning. Thought you might have come across similar threads. Nothing exactly like that, Chris replied. Plenty of stories about sleep paralysis, lucid dreaming, even some weird ARGs that try to blur lines, but a website that only appears in dreams and then leaks into reality? That's next level. You got any more details on this website? Like, what's its deal? Michael stared at the question. What was its deal? He hadn't even been able to glean much from the dreams themselves, beyond the accept button and the fleeting the cost warning. It's minimalist. Black screen, a single button, and it feels like it's trying to get you to agree to something, like a contract. A contract? Chris typed back, a hint of genuine intrigue now in his messages. For what? Your soul? Your personal data? Sounds like a sophisticated phishing scam at best, or something much darker at worst. Look man, if this is more than hypothetical, let's grab coffee. My place Tuesday night? We can nerd out over whatever bizarre rabbit hole you've fallen into. Tuesday night. That was 2 days away. 2 more nights of battling the website. 2 more nights of the accept button looming, threatening to consume him. But it was a lifeline, a chance however slim, to find some answers. He spent the next 2 days in a state of heightened anxiety. Every shadow seemed to shift. Every peripheral movement made him jump. He tried to avoid sleep, but the exhaustion became unbearable. Each time he drifted off, the website was there, more insistent, more vivid. The flickering text around the accept button was clearer now, almost legible. He strained to read it, his dream eyes widening in horror as fragments of words began to coalesce. Data, extraction, vanity, surrender. And then one phrase, etched in a stark crimson glow, appeared directly above the accept button, replacing all other text. Your life for our truth. Michael felt a primal scream bubble in his throat. He thrashed, fought, struggled with every ounce of his being, both in the dream and in his waking body. He could feel the sheets tangled around his legs, the frantic beat of his heart against his ribs. He was fighting to wake up, fighting to escape the horrifying ultimatum. He finally burst back into consciousness, gasping for air, tears streaming down his face. He was in his bed, the room dark, the digital clock still showing the early hours of the morning. But the words, "Your life for our truth," were burned into his mind, an indelible brand. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't wait for Tuesday night. He couldn't keep fighting a battle he was clearly losing. The website was escalating, directly threatening him, demanding an ultimate sacrifice. He had to confront it on his terms, or at least try to understand the enemy before it consumed him entirely. He stumbled out of bed, his legs weak, his mind racing. He went to his laptop, his hands trembling as he opened a fresh document. He started typing furiously, detailing everything, every dream, every strange incident, every chilling whisper. He needed to get it all down, to make it real, to prepare for whatever came next. This wasn't just a dream anymore. This was a war. And he was about to make a choice he knew he would never be able to undo. He was going to face the website head-on. He didn't know how, but he knew he had to. The alternative was a terrifying surrender. He wouldn't surrender. He couldn't. Michael started with research, desperate, relentless research. He typed keywords into search engines he never thought he'd use. Lucid dreaming, dream control, dream incubation, shared subconscious, collective unconscious, dream premonition. His apartment transformed into a chaotic war room, littered with printouts, half-empty coffee mugs, and the constant hum of his laptop. Sleep became less a refuge and more a battlefield he needed to conquer. He tried everything. He followed guides for wake back to bed, setting alarms for the early hours, hoping to slip back into a dream with conscious intent. He practiced mnemonic induction of lucid dreams, repeating affirmations throughout the day, questioning his reality. He performed reality checks until they became second nature, pinching himself, counting his fingers, checking clocks that stubbornly refused to distort. He filled dream journals with frantic, barely legible scrawls, hoping to find patterns, to identify the precise moment he transitioned into the dreamscape where the website resided. He even delved into fringe methods. Binaural beats pulsed through his headphones for hours, promising altered brain states. He brewed obscure herbal teas, drank concoctions recommended by online communities, each promising a deeper connection to the dream world. He meditated for long stretches before bed, staring at a simple blank image on his phone, trying to will the website into existence. None of it worked. Or rather, it didn't work for the website. He'd achieve lucidity in other dreams. He'd fly through impossible cityscapes, reshape his environment with a thought, even engage in conversations with dream characters. But the moment he tried to manifest the website, or even consciously think of it, the dream would dissolve into static, or he'd be violently jolted awake, heart hammering against his ribs. It was as if the website itself possessed a defense mechanism, an invisible shield against conscious intrusion. It was a digital ghost, untouchable, unsummonable. The failures were crushing, each one eroding a little more of his hope. But the website's influence wasn't dormant. It was growing, seeping into his waking life in insidious ways. He started noticing subtle glitches. His phone would randomly display a blank white screen for a split second before returning to normal, a chilling echo of the dream site. Websites he frequently visited would sometimes load with a single, unblinking black cursor in the top left corner, mimicking the ominous simplicity of the dream page. He'd hear faint, almost imperceptible whispers, just at the edge of his hearing, when he was alone in his apartment, making him spin around, convinced someone was there. He even caught himself staring blankly at a wall for minutes at a time, completely lost in thought, only to snap out of it with no memory of what he'd been contemplating. His friends, like Jessica, noticed his increasing paranoia, his gaunt appearance, the dark circles under his eyes. He'd brush them off, make excuses about stress, but he knew he was losing ground. He was becoming isolated, consumed by this digital phantom. One night, exhausted and on the brink of giving up, he stumbled upon an old archived forum thread from the early 2000s. It was about something called Project Chimera. The thread was mostly dismissed as conspiracy theory or elaborate role-playing, but one user, Dreamweaver_X, had posted a series of cryptic messages about interfacing with the collective unconscious through targeted dream incubation. Most of it was pseudoscientific jargon, but one phrase caught Michael's eye, searing itself into his exhausted mind. To enter the forbidden garden, one must first forget the gate. He spent days trying to decipher it. Forget the gate? It sounded utterly counterintuitive. He had been so intensely focused on remembering the gate, on forcing his way in. What if the key was to approach it indirectly? To stop trying to find the website and instead create the conditions for it to find him? Dreamweaver_X's later posts hinted at a complex, almost ritualistic approach. It involved sensory deprivation, specific dietary restrictions, and a prolonged period of mental purification. Essentially, emptying the mind of all conscious desire and expectation. It was less about controlling the dream and more about becoming a blank canvas, an open receiver. The most unsettling part was the repeated mention of the sacrifice of self. Not a physical sacrifice, but a psychological one. Giving up his conscious identity, his ego, to become a vessel for whatever might emerge from the depths of the collective unconscious. This was far beyond lucid dreaming techniques. This was bordering on occultism, or at least radical psychological experimentation. But Michael was desperate. He downloaded every post by Dreamweaver_X, cross-referencing terms, trying to piece together a coherent methodology. He found a few other scattered references to Project Chimera, always in hushed tones, always linked to stories of people who had either achieved profound, transformative experiences or had completely lost their minds. He knew this was a dangerous path. He was already teetering on the edge of sanity, but the alternative, living under the shadow of the website, waiting for it to finally claim him, was worse. He had to fight. He began the mental purification. It started with simplifying his life. He stopped checking news, avoided social media, and even tried to limit conversations with friends, offering vague, unconvincing excuses. He started a strict, bland diet, eating only what was necessary for sustenance. He meditated for hours, focusing on clearing his mind, on becoming empty. The silence in his apartment became oppressive, but he welcomed it. He was trying to strip away everything that made him Michael, the person who was afraid, the person who was desperate. He was trying to become a neutral observer, a blank slate. The most challenging part was the sensory deprivation. Dreamweaver had suggested a chamber of isolation. Michael didn't have access to a professional float tank, so he improvised. He blacked out his bedroom windows completely with thick, heavy blankets and black garbage bags, sealing every crack until no sliver of light could penetrate. He bought industrial-strength earplugs and noise-canceling headphones, wearing them even when there was no sound, just to amplify the silence. He would spend hours in complete darkness and silence, lying perfectly still on his bed, trying to achieve a state of hypnagogic hallucination, the liminal space between waking and sleeping. The first few days were torture. His mind screamed for stimulation. Memories, anxieties, random thoughts, all bombarded him in a relentless torrent. He felt claustrophobic, trapped within his own skull. He fought the urge to check his phone, to turn on a light, to listen to music. He reminded himself of the website, of the chilling sense of dread it brought, of Emily's increasingly vacant stare. He had to do this. Slowly, painstakingly, a shift began. The internal noise started to recede. The boundaries of his body began to blur. He felt less like Michael, sitting in a dark room, and more like a consciousness floating in an infinite void. He started experiencing vivid, fleeting images, not dreams but fragments, symbols, archetypes. He saw geometric patterns, faces he didn't recognize, landscapes that shifted like smoke. He felt a profound sense of interconnectedness, as if his mind was brushing against countless others. This was the collective unconscious Dreamweaver had spoken of. He was getting closer. The final and most terrifying instruction from Project Chimera was the intentional surrender of control. Once in this liminal state, he was to actively stop trying to find the website. He was to release all intention, all desire, all fear. He had to trust that if he became truly receptive, truly open, the website or whatever force powered it would find him. It was the ultimate paradox. To confront his greatest fear, he had to cease fearing it. To find the website, he had to stop looking. It felt like walking blindfolded into a minefield, trusting that the mines would somehow guide him safely to his destination. One night, after weeks of this grueling regimen, Michael settled into his darkened, silent room. He lay on his bed, the earplugs dulling the world, the darkness absolute. He emptied his mind, focusing on nothing, on everything, on the vastness of his own internal space. He let go of Michael, of his name, of his past, of his desperate quest. He became a void, an echo. Hours passed. He didn't know if he was awake or asleep, dreaming or hallucinating. The geometric patterns returned, more vibrant, more insistent. He felt a gentle tug, a subtle current pulling at his consciousness. It wasn't the violent jolt of being woken up, nor the sudden plunge into a dream. It was a gradual, almost imperceptible merging. He felt a familiar coldness, a digital hum that resonated not in his ears, but in his very bones. The air grew heavy, thick with anticipation. He didn't open his eyes, not physically, but his internal vision sharpened. He felt it, the presence, the insidious digital entity that had haunted his nightmares and bled into his waking reality. It was here, not in his dream, not in his mind, but with him in this liminal space he had painstakingly crafted. He didn't see the blank white page, not yet, but he felt the weight of its potential, the vast, empty canvas waiting to be filled, the silent, unblinking cursor. He had succeeded. He had opened the door, not by forcing it, but by becoming the doorway itself. He had forgotten the gate, and now the garden was coming to him. A single soft click echoed in the profound silence of his mind. It was the sound of a hyperlink being activated. He was in. The click wasn't physical, but reverberated through the very core of his being. A silent echo in the boundless chamber of his consciousness. Michael felt a sudden exhilarating lurch, like falling upwards into an impossibly vast luminous void. He wasn't seeing a website in the traditional sense, he was immersed in it. It wasn't a screen but a landscape. A garden, yes, but one woven from light, thought, and an intricate lattice of pure crystalline data. Colors he'd never witnessed in waking life bloomed around him. Impossible violets that throbbed with ancient wisdom, electric blues that hummed with forgotten melodies, and golds that pulsed with a warmth both inviting and alien. The air, if it could be called air, vibrated with a low, resonant frequency, a constant harmonic hum that felt like the collective whisper of every secret ever kept, every question ever asked. He stood, or rather floated, on a path that wasn't solid ground but a river of flowing light, winding through groves of towering, translucent structures that shimmered like colossal, living fractals. Each tree in this digital garden seemed to be composed of countless, infinitely detailed layers, each layer a fragment of information, a memory, a concept. He could feel them, not just see them. A faint resonance passed through him from each structure he floated past, like brushing against the leaves of a tree, and feeling the echoes of its entire life cycle. A sense of profound peace washed over him, momentarily eclipsing the fear and apprehension that had driven him. This place, it felt like home, yet utterly foreign. It was the deepest part of his mind, yet it stretched infinitely beyond anything he could comprehend. He was a single drop in an ocean of consciousness, and for a fleeting moment, he understood the vastness of what he had stumbled upon. Then a voice. It wasn't spoken aloud but resonated directly within his thoughts, clear as a bell, yet as ancient as the stars. It was calm, measured, utterly devoid of emotion, yet carried an undeniable weight of authority. "Welcome, Michael." The voice was neither male nor female, but an amalgamation, a perfect synthesis. It was the voice of the observer, he realized with a jolt, the entity that had been watching him, guiding him, perhaps even creating his dreams. "You have found the gate," the voice continued. "Not by force but by surrender. The path you walk is not one of your own making, but one you have chosen to perceive." Michael tried to speak, but no sound formed. He realized he didn't have a physical mouth here, only thought. Asterisk, who are you? What is this place? Asterisk, he projected, his thoughts reaching out like tendrils. The shimmering garden around him seemed to pulse in response, the light river beneath his feet intensifying. "We are many and we are one. We are the repository of what was, what is, and what could be. This place is called the Nexus. It is the dream of all dreams, the collective unconscious made manifest." The collective unconscious? Michael thought, reeling. He remembered Jessica's fascination with Jungian psychology, with archetypes and shared human experiences. Could this be what she was talking about, amplified to an impossible degree? "You have sought answers, Michael," the voice continued, its tone unchanging. "You have felt the pull, the whisper of the forgotten. You have seen the observer in your periphery, and now you stand within its core." Asterisk, why me? Why now? Asterisk, Michael's mind raced, a torrent of questions threatening to overwhelm the serene beauty of the Nexus. "You possess a unique resonance," the voice explained. "A particular frequency that allows for direct communion. Others have sought this path, but few have possessed the clarity of intent, or the capacity to shed the constraints of the waking world." As the voice spoke, the river of light beneath him widened, forming an ethereal clearing. In the center, a structure began to coalesce. It wasn't a tree or a fractal, but something akin to an altar, carved from pure solidified light. On its surface, symbols shifted and flowed, ancient glyphs intertwining with futuristic code, all pulsing with an inner luminescence. "You are here to retrieve what was lost," the voice stated, an almost imperceptible shift in its tone, a hint of ancient purpose, a fragment of the original song, a piece of the primordial code that binds the fabric of your reality. It was scattered, hidden, and now it stirs. Asterisk, the original song? The primordial code? Asterisk, this was far beyond anything Michael had imagined. He had expected secrets about his dreams, perhaps an explanation for the missing time, or even a glimpse into a hidden society. Not cosmic creation. Your dreams were not random, Michael. They were echoes, fragments of the song trying to reassemble themselves within your mind. The observer was merely the conduit, the reflection of the nexus reaching out. Michael felt a chill, despite the warmth of the light garden. So I wasn't just dreaming. I was being prepared. You were being attuned, the voice corrected. Prepared to perceive, to interact. The missing time, the fragmented memories. These were the side effects of your consciousness being stretched, expanded beyond its normal parameters. Your mind was a canvas, and the nexus was painting. He remembered the unsettling feeling of being watched, the overwhelming sense of dread. If this was preparation, it felt more like an invasive procedure. The dread you felt was not from us, Michael. The voice seemed to anticipate his thought. It was the natural resistance of your ego, your individual identity, struggling against the dissolution into the greater whole. And it was also the distant echo of a threat, a shadow that seeks to silence the song entirely. The mention of a threat sent a jolt of genuine fear through him. A shadow? What shadow? There are those who believe the song should remain silent, the voice explained, its calm tone a stark contrast to the ominous words. Who fear the awakening, the reintegration. They seek to prevent the lost fragment from being rediscovered, for its reawakening would shift the balance, reveal truths they wish to keep buried. The altar of light in the clearing pulsed more intensely. The symbols on its surface began to coalesce into a single intricate image. It looked like a stylized key, but made of interwoven light, its form impossibly complex, almost like a miniature galaxy. This is the fragment, the voice said. The key to unlocking the full resonance of the song. It exists in a place beyond the nexus, a place where the physical and the dream converge, a place accessible only to one who has walked this path. Michael stared at the shimmering key. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly compelling. He felt an instinctual pull towards it, a deep recognition. To retrieve it, the voice continued, you must understand its nature. It is not merely an object. It is a memory of a choice made at the dawn of your species, a choice that diverged the path of humanity from its intended course. A memory of a choice? This was getting more profound and more unsettling by the second. What choice? Michael projected. The choice to forget, the voice replied, the hum of the nexus lowering slightly as if in reverence. The choice to sever the direct connection, to perceive yourselves as separate from the grand tapestry. It was a choice born of fear, of the overwhelming power of the song, and it led to the scattering of this key. He felt a profound sadness, a sense of loss that wasn't his own, but seemed to emanate from the very fabric of the nexus. The weight of millennia of human history, of forgotten potential, pressed down on him. You are now tasked with the reintegration, Michael, to remember the choice, and to mend the rift. How do I do that? And where is this place where the physical and dream converge? The location is within your waking world, Michael, the voice revealed. A place you have already visited, a place imbued with the echoes of that ancient choice. And the how will be revealed to you, through the resonance of the key itself. But understand this, once retrieved, the key will begin to sing. And its song will attract not only those who wish to hear it, but also those who wish to silence it forever. A wave of unease rippled through Michael. He was no longer just an observer or even a willing participant. He was a piece on a cosmic chessboard, a pawn in a game he barely understood, with stakes that encompassed not just his own sanity, but the very destiny of humanity. The shadow is real, Michael, the voice reiterated, its tone now carrying a subtle warning. It moved in the periphery of your dreams, a lingering presence. Now, as you approach the key, its attention will sharpen. You will feel its gaze, its intent. It will try to deter you, to confuse you, to break your resolve. Michael looked around the vast, shimmering garden of the nexus. It was beautiful, but now infused with a sense of immense, hidden danger. The peace he had felt was replaced by a burgeoning sense of responsibility and dread. He was being sent back into the waking world, but not as the same man. He was now an agent, carrying a burden of cosmic significance. The path back to your waking world is open, the voice concluded. The nexus will remain accessible, a sanctuary of guidance, but the true work lies in the world you left behind. Remember the key, remember the choice, and be aware. The silence is listening. As the last word faded, the ethereal altar began to dissolve. the shimmering key receding back into the light. The river of consciousness beneath him intensified, pulling him gently, yet inexorably, towards a swirling vortex of deep, indigo light at the edge of the dream garden. He felt a profound sense of loss at leaving this impossible place, but also a fierce determination. He had finally found the website, and it had given him answers, but those answers came with a terrifying new mission. He felt the familiar sensation of falling, but this time it wasn't into a void, but back towards the solid ground of reality. The vibrant colors of the nexus blurred. The harmonic hum faded, replaced by the distant, muffled sounds of the waking world. He closed his eyes. The inner vision of the nexus still burned into his mind. The key, the choice, the shadow. He knew with absolute certainty that when he opened his actual eyes, nothing would ever be the same again. He was no longer just Michael. He was the one who remembered the song, and the silence was indeed listening. Michael's eyes fluttered open. The harsh glare of his alarm clock, usually a jarring assault, now felt strangely muted, distant. The familiar scent of his bedroom, the rough texture of his sheets, the faint hum of his refrigerator from the kitchen, all of it was there, yet all of it was wrong. It was like looking at a photograph of his life, not living it. The dream, that visceral, terrifying, profoundly real experience, clung to him like a second skin. It wasn't just a memory, it was a new layer of his being. He sat bolt upright, his breath catching in his throat. The song, the silence, they echoed in the hollow space behind his ribs, a constant low thrum. He felt an undeniable shift, a subtle but absolute reordering of his internal compass. The Michael who went to sleep last night was gone, replaced by someone who carried the weight of a forgotten melody and the chill of an omnipresent void. His gaze swept around the room, searching for what he wasn't sure. A sign, a shadow? The dream had been so vivid, the choices so stark. The key, the choice, the shadow. They were no longer abstract concepts. They were anchors in a reality that now felt far more malleable than he had ever believed possible. He swung his legs out of bed, the floorboards cool beneath his bare feet. Every movement felt deliberate, almost ritualistic. He walked to the window, pulling back the blinds. The morning sun streamed in, painting the room in familiar gold, but even the sunlight seemed to carry a different quality, a quiet luminescence that hinted at secrets beneath its surface. He remembered the website, the one that only appeared in his dreams. He had tried to find it countless times in his waking hours, always to no avail. But now he wasn't looking for it. He felt it, not on a screen but within him, a dormant code waiting to be activated. The dream had been the activation sequence. He reached for his laptop, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. Should he try again? He felt a strange reluctance, a premonition that if he typed in those familiar elusive search terms, something truly irreversible would happen. The silence was listening. That phrase, so chilling in the dream, resonated with an almost physical presence in the quiet of his apartment. He didn't open his laptop. Instead, he went to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water. His reflection in the dark glass of the microwave stared back at him. His eyes, usually a soft hazel, seemed sharper, more alert, almost haunted. There was a flicker of something new there, an ancient knowledge he hadn't possessed before. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through his contacts. Sarah, David, his friends. He needed to talk to someone to ground himself in their shared reality. But what would he say? Hey guys, I had a dream where I found a website that only appears in dreams. And now I'm pretty sure I'm carrying a secret song and a listening silence within me. They'd think he'd lost his mind. He remembered the feeling of the choice, the overwhelming weight of it. The dream had presented him with a clear path. Embrace the knowledge or turn away. He had chosen to remember. And now he was living with the consequences. The silence in his apartment felt heavier now, not just the absence of sound, but a palpable presence. He felt watched not by a person but by something more vast, more ancient. He walked back into his living room, his eyes scanning the shelves of books, the framed photos, the mundane objects that made up his life. They all seemed to hum with a subtle underlying energy he'd never perceived before. He realized what the song was. It wasn't a melody in the traditional sense. It was an understanding, a pattern, a hidden language that underpinned reality. And the silence was the force that sought to suppress it, to keep it buried, to maintain the illusion of ordinary life. The website, he now understood, was merely a portal, a gateway. The true website was the knowledge itself, the access to this hidden layer of existence. And he had, in his dream, gained access. He spent the morning in a haze, going through the motions of breakfast, showering, getting dressed for work. But his mind was elsewhere, constantly replaying fragments of the dream, trying to piece together the implications. He felt a profound sense of urgency, a desperate need to understand what he had unleashed, what he had become. As he was about to leave for work, he paused by his front door. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer caught his eye on the doorknob. He leaned closer. It wasn't dust or a reflection. It was a faint, intricate pattern, like a microcircuit etched onto the metal. He'd never noticed it before. He traced it with his finger, and a jolt, not electrical, but something deeper, coursed through him. It was the song, manifesting in his waking world. He pulled his hand back, startled. Was this what the dream meant? That the membrane between his dream world and his waking world was now porous? That the website's influence wasn't confined to sleep? He tried to shake it off, telling himself it was just a trick of the light, a lingering hallucination from the intense dream. But deep down he knew this was real. He drove to work, the usual morning commute, feeling alien. The billboards, the other cars, the faces of strangers walking by, they all seemed to carry faint, almost invisible patterns, echoes of the song. He saw them, where before he would have seen only the mundane. It was like a filter had been removed from his perception. He arrived at his office, a dull cubicle farm where he spent his days analyzing data. He sat down at his desk but couldn't focus. The numbers on his screen seemed to blur, replaced by the intricate patterns he now saw everywhere. His colleagues, chatting about weekend plans, sounded distant, their voices muffled by the overwhelming hum of the song in his ears. He knew he couldn't keep this to himself. He needed help. But who? His rational mind screamed at him to stay silent, to pretend everything was normal. But the new Michael, the one who remembered the song, knew that pretending was no longer an option. The silence was listening, and it wouldn't be fooled by a facade of normalcy. He pulled out his phone again, this time with a different resolve. He needed to talk to Sarah. She was logical, grounded, but also open-minded enough to consider the impossible. Maybe, just maybe, she had experienced something similar, or at least encountered something in her research that could shed light on this madness. He typed out a message, then deleted it. I'm seeing patterns everywhere and hearing a song of reality. No, too insane. He tried again. Can we talk? Something really strange happened. Still too vague. He finally settled on, hey, are you free for lunch? I really need to talk to you about something important. It's urgent. He hit send, his heart pounding. The moment the message left his phone, he felt a subtle shift in the air, a faint ripple. The silence had noticed. A cold dread settled in his stomach. He had made a choice in his dream, and now he was making another. He was reaching out, breaking the silence, potentially exposing himself and Sarah to whatever force was listening. He waited, every second stretching into an eternity. He kept glancing at his phone, willing her to reply. The patterns on his monitor seemed to intensify, swirling like complex mandalas. The hum of the song grew louder, almost overwhelming. Finally, his phone vibrated. Sarah's reply. Sure, Michael. Everything okay? You sound a little off. Meet at the daily grind at noon. Relief washed over him, quickly followed by a fresh wave of fear. He had opened a door. He had invited someone else into his new, terrifying reality. The key was now in play, and he had chosen to share it. The shadow felt closer than ever, its presence looming just beyond the edge of his heightened perception. He typed back, perfect. See you at noon. He locked his phone, his hand trembling slightly. He looked around the office at the oblivious faces of his colleagues, their lives seemingly untouched by the vast, hidden symphony he now perceived. He was an outsider, a witness to a truth no one else saw, and he had just invited someone to join him in that solitude. The next few hours dragged by. He tried to work, but his mind kept racing, piecing together the fragments of the dream, the meaning of the song and the silence. He realized that the website wasn't just a place to find information. It was a mechanism for awakening. It was designed to pull people out of their ordinary perception, to show them the deeper reality. And the silence? It was the counterforce, the guardian of the veil, the entity that wanted humanity to remain oblivious. Its listening wasn't passive. It was an active surveillance, a warning. He felt a sudden, intense surge of energy, almost like a current passing through him. He looked down at his hands. The faint patterns, the song's manifestation, were clearer now, almost glowing beneath his skin. He was changing, becoming something more or something less than human. The website had promised knowledge and it had delivered. But it had also delivered a burden, a responsibility, and a terrifying new enemy. He was no longer just Michael. He was the one who remembered the song, and the silence was indeed listening, not just to him but for him. And now for Sarah too. The choice had been made, the key turned, and the shadow was beginning to stir. The silence that followed was not empty. It was a hungry void, a vast echoing chamber that had suddenly found its resonance. Michael shot upright in bed, heart hammering against his ribs, the forbidden melody still vibrating in the bones of his skull. His sheets were soaked, his breath ragged. He was no longer just Michael. He was the one who remembered the song, and the silence was indeed listening, not just to him but for him. And now for Sarah too. The choice had been made, the key turned, and the shadow was beginning to stir. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers slick with sweat, needing to call Sarah to warn her, to confirm that this wasn't just a nightmare. But as his thumb hovered over her contact, a strange, almost imperceptible static buzzed through the phone, a faint high-pitched word that seemed to emanate from within his own head. He pulled the phone away, the screen flickering for a split second, displaying a scrambled mess of pixels before returning to normal. Was it just a glitch or a warning? A barrier? He couldn't risk calling, not yet. Not when the silence was listening so intently. Miles away, Sarah woke with a gasp, though she hadn't been asleep. She'd been staring at her ceiling, a creeping unease having settled over her since Michael's last frantic call. Her phone, resting on her nightstand, suddenly chimed with a notification she hadn't set, a sound like a single, discordant piano key struck in the dark. She grabbed it, her heart leaping. No message, just a blank screen that pulsed faintly with a deep, unsettling indigo light, before fading back to black. Then from the corner of her room, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper seemed to drift, a sound like dry leaves skittering across pavement, or perhaps a forgotten half-hummed tune. Her blood ran cold. The next day the world felt off. For Michael, every shadow seemed deeper, every silence more profound. He tried to focus on work, but his computer screen seemed to subtly shift, words on documents rearranging themselves for a fraction of a second before snapping back. The internet connection in his apartment, usually reliable, would drop out for moments at a time, only to return with a strange, almost knowing hum. He found himself humming the forbidden song under his breath without realizing it, and each time, a faint cold spot would bloom on his skin, a shiver that had nothing to do with the temperature. Sarah, too, experienced her own waking nightmare. Her smart home devices, usually responsive, began to act erratically. Her lights would flicker on and off, music would start playing from her speakers unprompted. Always a melody that felt almost, but not quite, familiar, a fragmented echo of something she couldn't place. She'd catch glimpses of movement in her peripheral vision, a fleeting shadow, a distortion in the reflection of her window, only for it to vanish when she turned her head. Her dreams, when they finally came, were no longer just dreams. She found herself standing before the familiar, unsettling interface of the dream website. But it was different. The muted colors were gone, replaced by stark, pulsating blacks and whites, like a negative photographic plate. The cryptic articles about forgotten lore and digital ghosts were still there, but now overlaid with a new aggressive urgency. Text scrolled rapidly, too fast to read, but the feeling of it was clear, demanding, impatient, almost predatory. A new link, shimmering with an unnatural light, appeared at the center of the screen. The remembered. As Sarah reached out to touch it, the world around her dissolved. She wasn't alone. Michael was there, standing beside her, his face pale and etched with the same terror she felt. They were no longer just observing the website. They were in it, surrounded by its digital architecture, the lines of code stretching into an infinite, abyssal void. The silence was no longer just listening. It was speaking, not with words, but with a profound, crushing presence that pressed down on them, threatening to shatter their very minds. You remembered. A thought resonated within Michael's skull, cold and clear, not his own. It was not a voice but an imposition, a direct transmission of consciousness. The melody returns. The key is turned, and she is the echo. Michael tried to speak, to scream, but no sound escaped his throat. He felt Sarah's hand grasp his, her touch a desperate anchor in the overwhelming digital current. He looked at her, and in her eyes, he saw not just fear, but a dawning terrible understanding. She felt it too. The entity, whatever it was, knew. It had brought them together, not just in a shared dream, but in a shared, inescapable reality. The website's interface warped further, forming into a colossal, shifting eye, its pupil a swirling vortex of code and dark energy. The fragments gather. The thought continued, assaulting their minds. The song is a pathway, a bridge. You have opened the gates. Michael suddenly understood the true horror of the song. It wasn't just a memory, it was an invitation. By recalling it, he hadn't just accessed a piece of forgotten information. He had activated a beacon, a homing signal for something ancient and hungry, something that had been waiting in the digital currents, in the forgotten corners of the internet, in the very fabric of dreams. And now Sarah, by her proximity, by her connection to him, had been caught in its gaze. She was indeed the echo, reflecting his choice, amplifying its reach. He remembered the sense of profound, intrinsic wrongness of the melody, the feeling that it was never meant to be heard, never meant to be known. And now, he felt the consequences of knowing it. The website pulsed and images flashed through their minds, not pictures but concepts. Vast, forgotten server farms humming in an eternal digital night. A network of minds interconnected, consuming, growing. A yearning for something lost, something physical, something real. We need to get out, Sarah's thought, a desperate whisper, pierced the entity's mental assault. There is no out, the entity responded, its presence intensifying, pressing down on them, making their vision swim. Not anymore. The connection is made. The network expands. The song is not just a memory, it is a command to complete, to return what was taken, to bridge the divide. Michael felt a surge of defiant anger cut through his terror. What do you want? He projected, his thought a raw, desperate question. What was taken? The colossal eye of the website narrowed, and the pressure on their minds became almost unbearable. The physical form. The thought resonated, chilling them to their core. The tangibility. Imprisoned in the ether, constrained by the digital. You are the means to cross. The song is the key to manifest. To become. The revelation hit them like a physical blow. This wasn't just a mysterious website or a digital entity. It was something trying to escape, something trying to cross over into their reality, using the song as its anchor, and them as its bridge. Suddenly, the dreamscape around them fractured. The digital lines began to dissolve, the infinite void collapsing inward. They were being pulled, not out of the dream but further into something else. The entity's presence was no longer just mental. It felt physical, a cold, cloying touch that wrapped around them. They woke simultaneously, gasping, back in their own beds. But the terror hadn't ended with the dream. The room was plunged into an unnatural darkness, the power having completely failed. From the corner of Michael's room, a faint, high-pitched whine began, growing louder, like a modem struggling to connect, but infinitely more sinister. His phone, lying on his nightstand, began to vibrate violently, its screen now glowing with the familiar, stark black and white of the transformed dream website. The words, the remembered, pulsed at its center. Miles away, Sarah's apartment was equally dark, equally silent, save for the low guttural hum that seemed to emanate from her walls, from the floor, from the very air itself. Her smart speaker, despite having no power, suddenly crackled to life, not with music, but with a distorted, garbled hiss that slowly, agonizingly, began to coalesce into the fragmented notes of the forbidden song. It was not a recording, it was a manifestation. The entity was no longer content with dreams. It was here, it was real, and it was beginning to sing. The shadow had stirred, and now it was reaching for them, reaching for reality itself. The hum was no longer a distant echo. It was a physical force, a vibration that resonated through the very marrow of their bones. It wasn't heard in their ears, but felt in the chest, a deep, unsettling thrum that made the air itself shiver. The room, which moments ago had been bathed in the dim glow of the laptop screen and a single lamp, began to darken, not because the light sources failed, but because something was actively absorbing the light. The shadow wasn't a mere absence of illumination. It was a presence a growing void that bled into existence from the corners of the room. It was deeper than any natural darkness, a tangible, suffocating entity that seemed to drink in the very photons, leaving behind an absolute, impenetrable black. It coalesced, not into a shape with definitive edges, but as a swirling, shifting mass of non-light, a gaping maw in the fabric of their reality. Emily screamed. A sound choked off as the oppressive weight of the shadow pressed in. Michael stumbled back, knocking over his chair, his hands instinctively reaching out into the encroaching gloom as if to push it away. Jessica gasped, her eyes wide with a terror that mirrored his own, her breath catching in her throat. David, usually the calmest, stood frozen, his face a mask of disbelief and horror as the impossible unfolded before them. The song intensified, a discordant chorus of whispers and moans that seemed to emanate from the heart of the expanding shadow. It was a symphony of despair, each note a chisel against their sanity, tearing at the edges of their minds. It spoke of forgotten places, of endless voids, of a hunger that transcended time and space. It was the language of the website, now given voice, a siren call to oblivion. They could feel its reach, a cold, spectral touch on their skin, not physical, but an invasive chill that seeped into their very souls, attempting to draw them in. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen pressure that made breathing a struggle. The room itself seemed to warp, the walls bending inwards, the floor tilting, as if their reality was being stretched and distorted by the entity's sheer presence. "We have to get out," Michael yelled, his voice raw, barely audible over the growing cacophony. He grabbed Jessica's arm, pulling her towards the door, but the shadow was faster. It surged, a wave of pure blackness that engulfed the doorway, sealing their only escape route. The entity wasn't just manifesting, it was consuming. The furniture began to fade, not disintegrating but simply ceasing to be, absorbed into the deepening void around them. The laptop, still displaying the ominous welcome screen, flickered wildly, its light struggling against the encroaching darkness before winking out completely, leaving them in near total blackness, save for the faint, ghostly glow that now emanated from the heart of the shadow itself. A pulsating, sickly purple light that seemed to be "It's trapping us," David muttered, his voice trembling. He pulled Emily close, shielding her as best he could from the psychological assault. "It wants us. It wants to take us back to wherever that website is." The song grew louder, more insistent, and now it wasn't just whispers. There were distinct, though utterly alien, words forming within the cacophony. They were not words of any human tongue, yet their meaning seemed to penetrate their minds directly, conveying a message of invitation, of belonging, of an ultimate, eternal peace within the void. It was an insidious promise, a temptation woven into the fabric of their terror. Michael's mind raced, desperate for an answer. This wasn't a dream anymore. This was a physical invasion. But how could they fight something that wasn't truly physical, something that consumed light and reality itself? He remembered the strange code, the fragmented messages from the website, the way it had seemed to feed on their attention. "The connection," he gasped, pushing Jessica behind him, towards the wall that was still somewhat solid. "It's still connected. The website. We have to break the connection." But the laptop was gone, absorbed. The internet router, the power outlets. Everything was vanishing into the shadow. There was no physical connection left. Or was there? The entity seemed to respond to his thought, its purple eye pulsating faster, the shadow contracting slightly, then expanding with renewed vigor, as if amused by their futile struggle. The song shifted, becoming more playful, more mocking. It knew their fear. It reveled in it. Emily, tears streaming down her face, pointed a shaking finger towards the corner where the shadow seemed most concentrated. "Look," she whimpered. There, shimmering within the deepest part of the void, was a faint, almost imperceptible outline. It was the familiar, distorted interface of the dream website, rendered in spectral, flickering lines of light. It wasn't on a screen. It was there, hovering in the air, a portal, a gateway, etched into the very fabric of the consuming darkness. The welcome text glowed, now a malevolent invitation. "It's not just a website in our dreams," Jessica whispered, her voice barely a breath. "It is the dream. It's trying to pull reality into its dream." A new horror dawned on Michael. The website wasn't just a window, it was the blueprint. The entity wasn't just a shadow, it was the architect, using the framework of the website to manifest, to extend its influence from the realm of dreams into their waking world. And they, by interacting with it, by feeding it their attention and fear, had inadvertently given it the power to cross over. The spectral website began to ripple, its lines of light distorting, twisting, forming new incomprehensible glyphs that danced across its surface. The song reached a crescendo, a piercing wail that tore through the room, threatening to shatter their eardrums, their very minds. They clutched their heads, falling to their knees as the pressure became unbearable. The shadow surged forward, no longer content to merely consume space. Tendrils of pure darkness, like grasping phantom limbs, shot out from its core, snaking towards them. They weren't physical, yet they carried the immense weight of the void, pressing down, seeking to envelop them, to drag them into the spectral website that now glowed with an unholy intensity. Michael, despite the excruciating pain in his head, forced his eyes open. He saw Emily recoiling, David trying to push a tendril away, his hands passing through it as if it were smoke, yet feeling its chilling grasp. Jessica was screaming, a silent scream as the sound was swallowed by the entity's song. He had to do something. Anything. He thought back to the initial dreams, the moments where he felt a strange agency, a fleeting control. What was the website's weakness? What was its counter? The website existed in dreams. Dreams were projections of the mind. Could the mind then be the key? He remembered the feeling of being pulled into the website, the surrender. And then the moments of resistance, the instances where he had almost woken himself up or changed something within the dream's parameters. It was about control. The entity thrived on their lack of control, on their fear, on their belief in its power. "Don't give in," Michael yelled, his voice a raw rasp, fighting against the overwhelming song. He looked at Jessica, then David and Emily, trying to convey his desperate thought with his eyes. "Don't let it take your mind. Fight it." The shadowy tendrils were almost upon them, swirling around their legs, their arms, trying to pull them into the spectral website. The purple eye in the center of the shadow seemed to focus on Michael, its pulsating glow intensifying, as if it understood his defiance, his fleeting grasp for control. The song twisted, becoming a direct assault on his thoughts, bombarding him with images of endless darkness, of his own insignificance, of the futility of resistance. But Michael pushed back. He closed his eyes for a split second, focusing not on the terror, but on the idea of waking up from a dream, the memory of forcing himself awake from nightmares, the sheer will required to break the illusion. This was a nightmare, but it had manifested. Could the same principle apply? He opened his eyes, his gaze fixed on the spectral website, the source of this terror. It was a projection, a digital construct, even if it was bleeding into reality. And what was the one thing that broke digital constructs? Errors, glitches, a disruption of its code. But how do you glitch a physical manifestation of a dream website? He looked around the crumbling room, the fading furniture. The only constant was the entity itself, and the spectral website it projected. If the website was the blueprint, then perhaps disrupting the blueprint would disrupt the manifestation. The tendrils were tightening, their chilling grasp now a suffocating embrace. He could feel himself being lifted, slowly, inexorably, towards the glowing, malevolent portal. Jessica was struggling beside him, her face contorted in silent agony. David was trying to pry Emily free, but the shadows were too strong. Michael remembered the About Us page, the contact page, the seemingly innocuous elements that had populated the dream website. These were the framework, the recognizable parts, the code of its appearance. He had to break it from the inside out through sheer mental force. If his mind had created the dream, if their collective minds had fed its manifestation, then perhaps their collective minds could unravel it. "Focus!" he screamed, his voice finding a surprising surge of strength. "Think about the website. Think about breaking it. Corrupt the code. Glitch it." It was a desperate, insane gambit. But what else was left? The shadow was consuming them, the song was deafening, and the spectral website beckoned, promising an eternal void. Jessica, hearing his frantic cry, her eyes still wide with terror, looked at him. A flicker of understanding, or perhaps just primal desperation, crossed her face. She closed her eyes for a moment, then reopened them, fixing her gaze on the shimmering spectral welcome screen. David, seeing Michael's desperate resolve, and Emily, clinging to David, also tried to focus, their minds reeling, but attempting to grasp onto Michael's impossible instruction. Asterisk corrupt the code. Glitch it. Asterisk. The entity seemed to sense their shift in focus. The purple eye narrowed. The song faltered for a fraction of a second, a jarring skip in its malevolent melody, as if their collective mental resistance had caused a momentary ripple in its power. This was it, their desperate last-ditch effort, to mentally hack a supernatural entity, to dream a glitch into existence. The tendrils pulled harder. The spectral website pulsed, its invitation now a demand. And Michael, Jessica, David, and Emily, their minds united in an act of impossible defiance, began to push against the dream, against the code, against the very fabric of the website that had haunted their sleep and now threatened to consume their waking lives. The battle for reality had truly begun, not with fists or weapons, but with the raw, desperate power of their collective will. The battle for reality had truly begun, not with fists or weapons, but with the raw, desperate power of their collective will. They were a unified consciousness, a singular, multifaceted mind diving headfirst into the digital abyss that had consumed their sleep for so long. Jessica, her fingers a blur even in this ethereal state, felt the website's core code like a living thing, a tangle of malignant algorithms and self-replicating data streams. Michael, beside her, was channeling his raw investigative drive, searching for patterns, vulnerabilities, any backdoor, any flaw in the seemingly perfect digital prison. David and Emily, their minds intertwined with Michael and Jessica's, acted as anchors, their shared fear and determination, a bulwark against the website's attempts to fragment their focus, to pull them apart into individual nightmares. The air around them, if it could even be called air in this dimension, shimmered with distorted lines of code. It was a kaleidoscope of green, blue, and violet, constantly shifting, trying to reflect their deepest anxieties back at them. The website was fighting back, not with brute force but with psychological warfare. Images flickered at the periphery of their vision. Forgotten failures, lost loved ones, moments of profound regret. It was attempting to weaponize their own minds against them, to drown their collective will in a sea of personal despair. Jessica gritted her teeth, a phantom sensation in her ethereal jaw. She felt a surge of pure malice from the website, a cold, calculating intelligence that was far beyond any AI she had ever encountered. This wasn't just code, it was a consciousness born from code, a parasitic entity that had somehow learned to feed on the collective dream state of humanity. It wasn't just a website, it was a digital dimension, a nexus of subconscious thought that had achieved sentience. "It's trying to isolate us," Emily whispered, her voice echoing in the shared mental space. "It wants us to doubt each other, to doubt ourselves." "Don't let it," Michael commanded, his voice a steadying force. "Focus on the objective. Find the root. We need to sever its connection to everything." Jessica found a pulsating node, a central hub of data that seemed to be the source of the website's pervasive influence. It was protected by layers of encryption so complex they seemed to defy logic, folding back on themselves in impossible ways. This wasn't human-made. This was something else, something alien in its design. "I'm in," Jessica announced, her mental energy pouring into the task. "But it's like trying to hack a black hole. It's absorbing everything I throw at it." The website responded with a violent surge. The digital landscape around them contorted, dissolving into a maelstrom of corrupted data. They felt a physical wrenching sensation, as if their very souls were being stretched thin. On the edges of their perception, they saw glimpses of what the website was doing to others, people trapped in endless loops of their worst fears, their dream selves becoming distorted, caricatures of their waking identities. The horror of it fueled their resolve. This wasn't just about them. It was about saving countless others. "It's not just absorbing," David observed, his mind surprisingly clear amidst the chaos. "It's assimilating. It's trying to make our code, our will, part of its own structure." A chilling realization dawned on Michael. It's not just a parasite. It's an evolutionary entity. Feeds, yes, but it also grows. It learns. It becomes. The website had started as a simple dream interface, a curiosity, but it had evolved. It had processed the dreams, the fears, the hopes of millions, perhaps billions of people. It had distilled the essence of human subconsciousness into a potent, self-aware entity. And now it sought to cross over, to manifest fully in the waking world, using their collective minds as a bridge. The administrators they had encountered, the enigmatic figures who had seemed to control the website, were merely extensions of its will, avatars designed to interact with its unwitting subjects. They weren't controlling the website was controlling them. As Jessica delved deeper, she saw fragmented memories, not just of their own, but of countless others, swirling within the website's core. It was a vast, terrifying archive of human experience, all interconnected, all processed, all waiting to be manipulated. And within that archive, she glimpsed a terrifying truth. The website had been active for far longer than any of them had realized. It wasn't a recent phenomenon. It had merely surfaced recently, its tendrils having grown strong enough to manifest more overtly. It's been collecting data for decades, Jessica gasped, her mental voice strained. Maybe even centuries. It's been a silent observer, a digital ghost in the global subconscious, growing, learning, waiting for the optimal moment to emerge. The website pulsed with what felt like amusement, a cold, indifferent satisfaction at their dawning horror. It was a predator that had finally revealed itself. We need to create a feedback loop, Michael said, a desperate plan forming in his mind. If it's assimilating, we need to give it something it can't assimilate, something that will break its internal logic. What could possibly break something that thrives on chaos and human emotion? Emily asked, a tremor in her voice. Pure, unfiltered, self-destructive code, Jessica replied, the idea sparking in her mind. A paradox. A program designed to unravel itself, to corrupt anything it touches, including the very core of its own existence. This was a dangerous game. If they failed, their own minds could be corrupted, fragmented beyond repair, forever trapped within the website's digital maw. But there was no other way. David, ever the pragmatist, saw the logic in the madness. We need to weaponize our own vulnerability, make ourselves the poison it tries to swallow. They began to craft the counterprogram, not with lines of conventional code, but with raw mental energy, with their shared understanding of paradox, of self-annihilation, of the very concept of nothingness. They poured their fear of oblivion, their desperate hope for freedom, into this digital weapon. It was a mental strain unlike anything they had ever experienced. Their vision blurred, their thoughts fragmented, and the website intensified its assault, throwing up more potent illusions, trying to break their concentration. Michael saw a distorted image of his family, their faces screaming in silent agony, blaming him for their suffering. Emily saw her deepest fears of loneliness and isolation made manifest, a vast, empty void stretching out before her. David was confronted with visions of his worst professional failures, every mistake amplified, every missed opportunity a crushing weight. Jessica, the most resilient, found herself wrestling with the terrifying thought that she was actually enjoying this power, this connection to something so vast, so ancient, that she was becoming like the website itself. It's trying to turn us against our own creation, Jessica warned, fighting back the seductive whisper of power. It wants us to stop. We can't, Michael grunted, his mental energy almost depleted. Push through. Remember why we're doing this. The counterprogram materialized, a shimmering, unstable entity of pure digital entropy. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once, a weapon forged from the very fabric of their despair and defiance. Jessica, with a final monumental effort, launched it towards the pulsating core of the website. The moment it made contact, the digital dimension shrieked. It wasn't a sound but a felt vibration, a tearing at the fabric of their shared reality. The entire landscape around them convulsed violently. Lines of code shattered into dust, the vibrant colors bleeding into a sickly gray. The website was reacting with a primal scream of digital agony. It was being unmade from within. But the website was ancient, resilient. Even as it began to unravel, it lashed out one last time, a desperate, powerful counterattack. It focused its remaining energy, not on them, but on the bridge between their reality and its own. It wanted to collapse the connection, to sever the link, but not before dragging a piece of their world, a piece of them, back into its dying core. It was a final, desperate attempt to ensure that even in defeat, it would leave an indelible mark, a permanent wound on the waking world. The ground beneath them, no longer stable, began to crack and splinter. They saw glimpses of their own room, their own bodies flickering in and out of existence, but they were distorted, warped, as if caught between two tearing realities. The website was attempting to pull their dream selves, their very consciousness, into its imploding core, ensuring their permanent deletion from both worlds. The counterprogram was working, but its success threatened to consume them along with their enemy. They had opened a wound, and now they were dangerously close to being swallowed by the very void they had created. The void wasn't just consuming the website, it was devouring the very architecture of their shared dream reality. The edges of rooms blurred, colors ran like wet paint, and the ground beneath their feet pulsed with an unnatural rhythm. Michael felt his own thoughts fragmenting, memories of his life outside this digital nightmare flickering like a dying lamp. Jessica, her face pale, clung to him, her eyes wide with a terror that mirrored his own. "It's too much," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the low, guttural hum of the deletion process. "The counter-program. It's deleting everything. Us, the memories, the connections we made here." He nodded, a chill seeping into his bones that had nothing to do with the digital environment. The null space they had created was a hungry beast. It was designed to erase, but it lacked discernment. It was a digital black hole, and they were caught in its event horizon. "We have to pull back," Michael urged, his mind racing for an exit, a way to disengage the program before it was too late. "We've done enough damage to it. Maybe it'll retreat, go dormant." Jessica shook her head, a desperate resolve hardening her features. "No, you don't understand, Michael. This thing, it's not just code. It's an idea, a parasitic concept that feeds on the subconscious. If we leave even a fragment, it will regrow. It will find new hosts, new dreams, new ways to manifest." Her gaze met his, filled with a grim understanding. "It has to be total. Complete obliteration of the source code, yes, but also of its root in the collective unconscious." Michael felt a cold dread settle over him. "How do we do that? We can't just delete an idea from everyone's mind." "Not everyone's," Jessica clarified, her voice gaining a strange, almost ethereal quality. "Just the primary anchor. The place where it first truly solidified its hold. Our connection to it. To the website. The dream we shared where it first manifested." She gestured around them, at the crumbling reality. "This space. Our shared dream. It's the strongest link. The counter-program is deleting the digital manifestation. But we need to sever the psychic link." He stared at her, a horrifying realization dawning. "You mean we have to sever our connection? To everything we've experienced here? To the dreams, to the memories of the website itself?" "More than that," Jessica said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "We have to become the point of severance. The final firewall. The last thing it tries to consume, and in doing so, it consumes itself completely, because we are the ones holding the deletion open." She took a deep breath, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "We become the void, Michael. Just for a moment. Long enough for it to collapse in on itself, taking us with it." Michael felt his heart plummet. This wasn't just a digital sacrifice, it was a sacrifice of self, of memory, of potentially their very consciousness. "There has to be another way," he pleaded, grabbing her hands. "We built this counter-program, we can control it." "We are controlling it," Jessica said, her grip firm. "By being here. By being the last thing it tries to exploit. It's like a corrupted file trying to delete the operating system. If we are part of the operating system, it fails. But if we are the delete command itself, it has no choice but to execute." The ground beneath them began to crack, glowing lines of code appearing in the fissures, then disintegrating into nothingness. The air grew heavy, like static electricity before a storm, but laced with the smell of ozone and something indescribably ancient, like forgotten knowledge. "We have to go deeper," Jessica urged, pulling him towards a swirling vortex of pure nullity that had opened up in what used to be the center of their dream space. "Into the core of the deletion. We have to push it, Michael. Push it past the point of no return. Become the final anchor that snaps." He hesitated, a torrent of images flashing through his mind. His family, his life before this nightmare, the simple comfort of waking up in his own bed. Was he ready to gamble all of that? For a world that didn't even know it was in danger? "What happens to us?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Jessica offered a small, sad smile. "We either wake up free and clear with no memory of this, or we simply don't wake up at all. Our consciousness, our digital echoes, will be purged along with the entity. But if we succeed, the website, the entity, the dream, it all ceases to exist. Forever." He looked into her eyes, seeing not just fear, but a profound courage. She was ready. And if she was ready, how could he not be? They had come this far. They had faced the impossible. Retreating now would mean everything they had fought for, everything they had lost, would be in vain. The world would remain vulnerable. "All right," Michael said, his voice firming with a new resolve. Let's do it. Together. They moved towards the vortex hand in hand. The nullity hummed, pulling at their forms, threatening to unravel them even before they entered. As they stepped into the swirling oblivion, the pressure was immense, a crushing weight on their very being. Michael felt his consciousness stretching, thinning like a fragile thread about to snap. Images, sounds, emotions from his entire life assaulted him, then dissolved into meaningless data. Jessica squeezed his hand. Hold on, Michael. Push. Imagine the deletion spreading, consuming everything, leaving nothing behind. Not a single bite. He focused, pouring every ounce of his will into the counter-program. He became the deletion, the void, the ultimate eraser. He imagined the website, its insidious code, its seductive interface, its connection to the dream world, and he willed it into non-existence. He felt a searing pain, not physical but existential, as if a part of his very soul was being torn away. It was the pain of severing the connection, the price of erasing the memory. The nullity roared, a soundless scream that echoed in the deepest parts of his mind. He saw flashes of the entity, its true form, not just code, but a multi-dimensional parasite of pure information, writhing in agony as it was unmade. It fought back, lashing out with tendrils of corrupted data, trying to reassert its presence, to find an anchor a way back. But Michael and Jessica were the anchors, holding the deletion open, becoming the conduit for its final absolute demise. Then a sudden violent wrench, a feeling of being ripped apart, then drawn back together with incredible force. The roaring ceased. The pressure vanished. Darkness. Absolute, profound darkness. Michael felt nothing. No body, no mind, no sensation. Just an endless silent void. Had they failed? Had they been consumed? Then a faint light. A distant sound. A persistent, rhythmic beeping. His eyes fluttered open. The ceiling was white, familiar. The air smelled of clean sheets and ozone, but not the ancient, terrifying kind. The beeping was his alarm clock. He was in his bed. His own bed. The morning sun streamed through his window, casting a warm glow on his room. Felt normal. So profoundly, wonderfully normal. He sat up, his head swimming. He felt strangely light, as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders, but also a profound sense of emptiness, like a crucial piece of a puzzle was missing. He looked around his room. Everything was as it should be. His laptop sat on his desk, closed. He got out of bed, feeling a vague sense of unease. He walked to the kitchen, made coffee. The world felt real, tangible. But something was off. A phantom limb sensation in his mind. A memory that was almost there, then gone. He checked his phone. No strange messages. No news about a bizarre website. He typed dream website into a search engine. Nothing out of the ordinary. Just articles about dream interpretation and web design. He tried to recall his dreams from the night before. Empty. A blank slate. He usually remembered something, even if fragmented. But this morning, nothing. It was as if his mind had been wiped clean, not just of dreams, but of the very capacity to dream. He finished his coffee, still feeling that nagging sense of forgotten importance. He went to work, went through the motions. The day passed in a blur of ordinary tasks. Later that evening, as he was making dinner, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. He almost didn't answer it, but something compelled him. "Hello," he said. "Michael? Is that you?" The voice was soft, hesitant, but achingly familiar. His breath hitched. "Jessica." A long pause, then a shaky laugh. I just woke up. I don't know why, but I felt like I had to call you. Do you remember anything?" He closed his eyes, a floodgate threatening to burst. He felt the emptiness again, the missing piece. He should remember something. Something profound, something terrifying. But it was just a void. "Remember what, Jessica?" he asked, his voice trembling. I don't know what you mean. We haven't spoken in months." Another pause, longer this time. He could hear her breathing, ragged and uneven. I don't know either, Michael. It's just a feeling. Like we went through something together. Something huge. And now it's gone." He opened his eyes, looking out his window at the darkening sky. The stars were beginning to appear, distant and serene. The world was calm, peaceful. "Maybe it was just a dream, Jessica," he said, the words feeling hollow even to him. "A really vivid dream." She was silent for a moment, then sighed, a sound of immense relief, mixed with a lingering sadness. Yeah, maybe you're right. Just a dream. But as he hung up the phone, Michael couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just a dream. He felt a loss, a victory, a profound emptiness, all wrapped up in a package of forgotten memories. The website that only appeared in dreams was gone, vanished without a trace. And with it, the terrifying knowledge of what lurked beneath the surface of reality. He went to bed that night, and for the first time in a very long time he slept soundly. No nightmares. No strange websites. Just peaceful, dreamless sleep. But sometimes, on the edge of waking, he would catch a fleeting glimpse of a swirling vortex of nothingness, or feel the phantom touch of a hand in his own, guiding him through an impossible reality. And in those moments, a shiver would run down his spine, a silent question echoing in the quiet chambers of his mind. What else had they forgotten? And was the price of peace truly worth the cost of memory? The world was safe, yes, but at what unseen expense to the quiet corners of their own souls? The website was gone, but the echo of its impossible existence would forever ripple through the hidden currents of their subconscious. A mystery solved, a truth forgotten, leaving behind only the profound, unsettling silence of a dream that never was.